That's going to be hard to follow. But for everybody who's here and who maybe doesn't know you personally, tell us a bit about yourselves.
We do have 5 kids. We live in Ripon. We go to church here. Tyler is 12, Ashley's 10, Alyssa is 8, and we have twin 5-year-olds. So they keep us moving and that's us in a nutshell.
Did you have to practice their ages before you came?
Yeah, I had to think about it.
Just curious.
Their birthdays were a month or so ago, so it's
Well done. Good deal. So you have a family of 5 kids. You live in Ripon. Anything else you want to share? Nothing?
No,
All right.
we're
We'll
good.
start there. Great. We'll get into some other stuff. So you have 5 kids. You got a fun family. Always active, having fun. Before we get to that, I do want to tell one quick story about you guys. Mark was my wrestling coach in high school, so I know him pretty well. And there was one instance that I can never forget. We were riding home on the bus from a wrestling meet, and on the way home, I overhear him call Jane, his wife. He was calling and saying, hey, Jane, and we were on the way home in the bus. I'm so sorry, the meet went long. It's going to be another hour or 2 before I get home. And then he hung up, and he's like, can't wait to get home to surprise her. And I thought that was the best thing ever. Like, here I am, this high school student, and he's thinking how to set it up so he's going to have a fun night and surprise her and make her happy. Set expectations at the right level. This is a good lesson. So I thought that was awesome. I just could tell that he liked to be goofy and that sort of thing. So that's what I know about you guys. As you think about just normal life, I want to give a little bit of a picture of what life is like. So describe normal everyday life. What's a day in the life of the Bradley family?
We just, whatever we need to get done for the day, we kind of set a plan ahead of time. We communicate with each other, and whether that's we all go somewhere and take everybody, or we divide up and I take 1 or 2 or 3, she takes 1 or 2 or 3 when we go do whatever that choices are. But the main thing is that we dictate kind of what the kids want to do, and we put them first. And if it's a nice day, we try to go to the park. We try to get out and do things just because that's what we want them to be doing, is be active and that. And there's 20 things that we want to do, or that are our own individual things we want to do, but we don't worry about those. We just, whatever the day goes or the kids do, kind of we go with that flow. And so each day is definitely different, and some days there's quiet and other days there's chaos, and we just kind of have to take what we get and go from there.
Totally. As you think about that's the pressure. You guys, when I went over to you guys' house for a little bit to talk about it, and it just seemed like any normal family having a lot of fun, which is great. It was super fun. You guys are the most amazing parents. It was super fun to sit there and hang out and have some kids crawling around, but they were so well behaved, hanging out. It was awesome. But in addition to having a family, I'm just curious. What extra pressures have you guys had to deal with over the past few years?
In January, our youngest was diagnosed with a disease that affects his eyes and kidneys. And it was such a quick overnight transition from having 5 healthy children and filling out the school forms and putting none on everything, to suddenly having a disease. And it was difficult because I didn't realize we were coasting until suddenly we weren't coasting. And it started slowly. He had a little bit of a pink eye, so I thought he had pink eye. And we took him to the pediatrician, and he said everything was fine. And so by the time he got to an ophthalmologist about a month later, after 4 phone calls, and it's not getting better, and don't worry about it, one of his eyes was permanently scarred. So there was a lot of guilt that went with that, because deep down I figured something wasn't right, but when you're told it's okay, you try not to be that parent. So trying to deal with some of that guilt over the delay in diagnosis was somewhat difficult. Mm-hmm. And also with that is that as we were doing that, suddenly it became a race against trying to figure out what to do about this. It's an extremely rare condition, so there weren't a lot of professionals that were accustomed to treating this. It was something that they had only read about, and certainly not in a 4-year-old at the time. So what do we do about this? And the medicines were powerful medicines and had lots of side effects. But you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, because if you don't treat it, he'll go blind. And then, of course, the kidney component too, where they would say, well, there might be some symptoms, or it might be silent kidney failure, which makes you feel not real good.
Yeah, no kidding.
So as it progressed, the steroids he was on to control it didn't keep it under control. And so there was a period of time where panic set in as I was trying to get through this and talk to every professional in the country. And I'm telling you, I called every professional in the country. And I got a lot of no's, and I got a lot of, if you're not a patient, I won't give you my time. But I persisted because I felt like we were fighting for Luke. And as I knew that our next appointment at Children's was going to, then we would have to transition off the steroids and begin chemotherapy treatment. And that was just so frightening to think about, the fact that we would have to, at home, inject him with this medicine. And once you start, because it's slow acting, you'd have to be on it for several years. Yeah. And I had to find a way around it, and I had to find a way around it, and I just couldn't. Everything else left the table, and that was the only answer left. And especially at the last visit, where the swelling was around his retina, and retinal cells are not regenerative, there was no other choice. Mm-hmm. And so finally, I truly mean that it was a moment of surrender, where I finally got to the point where, and Mark and I together, where we had to just say, we can't fix this. Mm-hmm. No matter how hard I pray, no matter how panicked I become, no matter how many phone calls I make, I cannot make this little guy better. And I have to just trust that the only option we have left is the best option for him. And so actually on his birthday is when we first injected him while he slept, which is actually a very genius.
Don't tell him, he doesn't know.
A very genius solution by a nurse. I can't believe when she said that, I thought, you're brilliant, because he does not know about it. And I'm happy, we're happy about that, because then he hopefully will not feel like the sick little boy that he is.
Mm-hmm. As you've dealt with this, there's been a really trying thing, and I know that that's just one of a few things. But as you've been dealing with those things, how has your faith guided you guys through that?
I was just going to say that we just let, like she said, we just kind of surrendered and said, well, whatever path you take us. And we put a thing out on Facebook just to see if anybody that we know has any news with this or any knowledge of this. And, we just didn't know what else to do. And then a couple people recommended this holistic doctor in Oshkosh, and it would take 2 years to get on the waiting list and that. And so we gave the person a call, and within a couple of weeks we were able to get in. Wow. Because she canceled a conference that she was going to go to because she really wanted to see him. And then we were able to get in. She was able to kind of give us some answers to what's going on, because she was able to really dive into the information. And so we've, been doing what she has said, along with what the Children's Hospital doctors have said, and he's doing better and he's improving, and and like we just let God take over and tell us what to do or how to do it, and that's kind of how we've kind of been dealing with it, because we couldn't do it ourselves. We tried, but.
That's one of the things when we were talking a week or two ago that I was so impressed by, because you're trying to fix things, trying to fix it, and you guys said it so simply, like, eventually you just have to surrender and try and knock open and beat down these doors, and then finally you say, like, this is the one I'm going to go through. And I think that's wild.
And the other part of that that's really helped is realizing that not projecting forward so far, because a lot of the fear with this was that what will his life be? What will he be able to do or not be able to do? What is this going to mean for Luke long term? And making those guesses and those projections will drive you crazy. And there was no purpose or benefit in that for us. So just taking him as he is right now and enjoying him as he is. He's a healthy, happy little guy right now on the outside, and just enjoying those days, and whatever comes may come, but we'll deal with that at the time. Right now we're fighting for him the best we can, and not worrying so much about what this means as a 30-year-old Luke, or that wasn't constructive. It just made us upset. So just living for, kind of like Luke was saying, living more day by day, and trying not to worry about those future issues.
Awesome. Now you guys have plenty on your plate. How have you, as you've had things on your plate, kept your marriage strong?
Just communicating, doing what's best for the family or for us. A lot of joking, a lot of laughter, because there is a lot of stressful things and scary things and unknowns, and we just try to take it as we can. And some days it's a deep conversation where at the end we're teary-eyed, and other days it's jokes and making laughs and and stuff like that. So I think and she can talk too a little bit, but I think we complement each other good, because we don't think about ourselves and what we want first. We think about what's best for either her or the kids, and that takes precedent. And so just, like anything else, if you put somebody else in front, then they'll appreciate that, and it'll make it work.
That's awesome.
I think our strength is, when I look at our marriages, we're not romantic, and we don't buy presents for each other or do things like that. We work well as a team. I think that with everything that we do, that we're a really good team. As he was saying about either dividing up and you go do this and I do that, or whatever we do, I think that our teamwork is our biggest strength.
That's awesome. There's been a couple other things that you've talked about that we've talked about. I want to talk about one more of them. You made a decision a while back, and you felt really led to do it. And it's the last thing that we have a couple more minutes, so we'll talk about this for a couple minutes. But you chose to do something for someone else. You want to talk a little bit about that? Are you all right with doing that? Great.
Sure, yeah. So this last August, just over a year now, I delivered twins that I carried for a friend. She had breast cancer and could not carry children for herself. And so I was actually quite afraid to ask Mark when I first did, because it's kind of crazy. And most husbands would say, why? And no. But he said, sure, let's go for it, because that's the kind of guy Mark is. He is always looking for an opportunity to help somebody. And I knew that was one of my biggest signs that God was okay with this. When your husband says, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and carry somebody else's children. And they're beautiful and they're doing great. We just went out, they live in Philadelphia now, and we went out to see them for their first birthday last weekend and had a wonderful visit. It wasn't as easy as I shouldn't say I anticipated it to be easy. I thought it would be more of a physical sacrifice and less of an emotional one, but turned out to be quite a bit of an emotional sacrifice, just because I think your body grieves. It feels like a loss. It feels like something's missing. And I think long term it probably will, as with any other trauma. I guess you should say that might be slightly dramatic, but it'll probably heal with time. But Mark has helped me with that, and it's confusing because it feels like if they were born healthy and everything went well, that it should be just joy, but there's sadness and grief that comes with it. And so it's something that we've worked on together, and I think it's made our marriage stronger because it was always our project. It wasn't just my project. It was his project just as much, too, because he loves this couple as much as I do. And he wanted what was best for them, too.
That's amazing. So the thing that I think is so awesome about watching you guys' relationship and just looking in from the outside is there's so much about loving and caring for other people. And when you do that, you experience pressure, this really tough, significant pressure. And as we talked this a couple of days ago, the thing that is this resounding thing that's been in my ears since we talked is just how much it's like, you know what? I mean, I could keep on living and thinking like 30 years in the future, or we could continue to trust that God will open doors. And we're going to just get to the point where we're going to say, God, what do you want next? And let's go do that. And we'll just keep doing that, and it'll keep on moving forward, and we'll find this joy in our time. And so it's just been a pleasure to watch you guys parent and watch you guys grow and to be part of that, and literally just to have that bit of fun for me, just to look up to that. So that's been really fun for me. The last thing we'll talk about for just a brief second is this. You guys, you have so much on your plate some days, but then you come to church or I see you out in the community and you kind of like have smiles on your face, and you're like kind of goofy and joking. I'm curious how that happens when you're dealing with those kinds of pressures. And that'll be the last thing.
I don't know, I'm always laughing, I'm always smiling. Kids that have me at school, I'm always making jokes because, there is a lot of pressure out there, and laughter can be a good remedy to get through it. And it might be, for at least at school or for us at home, it could be that tipping point of, all right, that's not so bad, or, hey, that was a good part of my day because it made me laugh and I got all this other stuff that I'm thinking of, and, and that's just kind of the way we've gotten to be together, and, how we communicate and things like that. We do a lot of joking and laughing and smiling and, taking things for what it is. And that's just kind of what we've always done, and kind of do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for being the people that you are. Thank you for taking the step to be up here. I know that's a big step. Could you all give them a round of applause?
And the reason why I appear to be wise is I've been around for so long. I'll be 80 the 26th of this month, September 26th. So thank you. I say that to people, so if you want to send me a birthday card, you can. Anxiety and pressure truly is what a lot of people come to me to talk about and to try to smooth out in their life. How do I live with this? Jesus has told us that this is the way we would live, that life would be hard, that there are going to be bumps in the road. Bill and I just got back last night. We went on a cruise to New England. We had to make a plane change. So we had to take all of our luggage, go up an escalator with the luggage. Bill's 81, I will be 80. But I mistakenly put my luggage in front of me in the escalator. So that would mean, of course, for the wise person would know that the luggage wasn't going to keep going, but I was going to keep going. So, of course, I went backwards, went on Bill. Bill went on the person next to him. So talk about being anxious and having anxiety in your life. So then I woke up this morning, of course, with a sore throat. That's part of life. And what puzzles me is really, and I could see it with Mark and Jane. Excuse me, Mark and Jane, for using you, but I just saw you. Was the difference in personality and the difference in temperament and how that changes how one person can handle stress and the other person how they handle it differently. So you're going to look at somebody and say, but they went through whatever they went through, and look how well they are doing it. But then you're going through something, maybe falling off the escalator, and it throws you for a loop. Why can't I be like that other person? And the reason why you cannot be like that other person, you may write this down because this is wise. You are not the other person. You are who you are. God made you to be who you are. And if anything, what I teach, I guess for years I have taught, is that you are who you are. A great man long ago taught me that. If you ain't who you are, if you ain't who you is who you ain't. Be who you are. So as you walk through life and as you fall down the escalator or you have whatever you have in your life, a man just called today, lost his job, late 50s. He's going to handle it differently than someone else does. But that is what life is like. We're full of anxiety. We have anxiety, and we have, of course, pressure. I think real anxiety, though, is nothing but worry. We begin to worry about something. Sam said I had 15 minutes, and he said that there would be a clock. I don't see a clock, so I'm just going to keep talking, and Sam can just come cut me off. But I decided I'm going to call Sam anxiety and talk longer than 15 minutes. Get anxious over something that sometimes we can help, we can do something about. I could do nothing about other than the next time I do go up an escalator, I will put my bags behind me. I have learned that. But if your feet hurt, take your shoes off. There are many people that live through anxious things that with just a little twist could take the anxiousness away. If there's someone that is hurting you, tell them, hey, you're hurting me. I don't like that. If there's someone that is causing you to be less than you are, tell them who you are and that you like who you are. The anxiousness that we feel, to me, is that we feel like we have to worry about something, though, most of the time. And we feel if we're not worrying about something, whatever it might be. I have 3 boys that are in their 50s, by the way. I have 3 daughter-in-laws. I have 8 grandchildren. Can I control their lives? Can I do anything? Can I tell them what to have for breakfast? Do I know, are they going to take a flu shot this year? I could do nothing about that. There are some things you can do nothing about. So we say to ourselves, because I cannot do it, I will worry about it. And me worrying about it means I'm doing something. Do you understand that? And we think that sometimes if I don't worry about something, I don't care. Or if I don't worry about it, then I'm not doing anything. I can remember there was a point in my life, I thought a long time about whatever it was. Days went by, and I got no nearer the solution. And I said to God, I have thought about this for a long time, and I still don't have an answer. That means me thinking about it, worrying about it all this time was a waste of time. And a waste of my energy, and a waste of my focus doing something else, instead of just giving it to Him. I, of course, being who I am, worry differently about things than my husband is because of being who he is. Bill is very organized. He's been a wonderful husband. That's why we can take trips. Wonderful. I'm very disorganized. I did not know what time to come tonight. I kept calling people and saying, what time is it? But because Bill is who he is, he handles things differently than I handle things. Does that make him less? No. Does that make me less? No. There was a time when God said to me, and God talks to me. I don't hear his voice, but I just know him. And he said to me, Jeanette, stop being mad at other people because they're not you. Stop being mad at people because they don't do what you do. Stop being mad at other people because they don't live life the way you live it. Thank goodness everyone doesn't live their life the way I live it. Life would be a complete chaos, truly. I was interested in one of the questions. I wrote it down because I found it fairly interesting. Let me see, it said something about doing something perfectly. And don't you know one of my pithy sayings? Some of you should know one of my pithy sayings. You should know it, honey. Care enough to do a bad job. Do the job. Most people would never get up here and talk. You can't talk. You wouldn't do a good job. I can't do a good job speaking. There are many better speakers than Jeanette Stone. But there's only one Jeanette Stone who can speak. There's only one you that can do the job. Care enough to do a bad job. Relax with it. And I don't mean, of course, sloppiness, etc. Anxiety that we live with, though, there are many things that you can remove. If you're thinking about something right now that you're worried about, handle it if you can handle it. Do something about it if you can do something about it. Care enough to do a bad job doing it. Care enough to do a bad job about telling that person what you need to tell them. And you can say it right at the beginning. You know, I'm going to do a horrible job doing this, but I'm going to do it. And it will relieve you of that anxiety. We spend lots of time when we should just give it to the God. In Psalm 46, verse 10, you notice I have a black Bible. I want to tell you why I have a black Bible. I keep it in my purse when I'm traveling. I got caught in the bus station in Chicago at 2:30 in the morning. That's when all the druggies are there, and me. So I reached in my purse, pulled out my black Bible, and read it. There was a moat of space all around me because of my black Bible. Then it came time for me to get my luggage. And of course, me being me, I had lost my luggage ticket, of course, because Bill wasn't with me. And I said to the man, I said, that's mine right over there. And he said to me, lady, do you really think I'm just going to give you that bag? And I said, of course not. Just a moment. Let me look in my purse. Would you hold this for me while I look for my ticket? And he gave me the bag. So, everyone knows what a black book is. Even somebody in Chicago. Psalm says, 46, verse 10. To hear and be still and know that I am God. Shh, be still, quiet. Be willing to be quiet, to turn off the TV, to not have it in your hand, the techie thing that you have in your hand, and to know that I am God. I can't be still, you say. I can't know God. I don't know him. So what you do when you don't know that and you can't be still is you say to God, I can't be still. With God, you say exactly what you want to say, and he will give it to you. I promise you. If you say to God, help me be still, he will help you. If you say to God, I don't know you and I want to know you. I want you to know you in my heart where I am in love with you. He will give that to you. Be still and know that I am God. It is the answer to anxiousness because we go through rough times. Pressure, I think, that we have can be brought about in today's world, especially because we're so busy. We're just one thing after the other. We are, in fact, eating dinner with our spouse. You finally have taken your mate out for dinner, but you're looking at your phone at the same time. Or we're doing 2 or 3, and we cannot multitask. They say you can, but you cannot. You think about one thing at a time. And so if you're so busy, and we think, I've got so much to do, then cut some things off. When I have had too much in my life, when the stress just happens, the first thing I ask, what can I take away? What do I not need? And sometimes we have taken away vacations. We can't even deal with that now. Simplify your life if the pressure is too much. And I know it's a big thing to ask in today's culture. Somehow we think the busier we are, the happier we are, and the more productive we are, and the more successful we are, and the better we are than other people. On top of the escalator, I also have a sore throat. God just threw that one in. So we move things. You cannot do everything. Keep your life simple. Make it as simple as you can. People often say to me, and someone said to me on the way in tonight, how busy I am as a woman. I really am not that busy. I don't belong to any clubs. I don't go to clubs. I don't go to meetings. In fact, I don't like meetings. If you want to tear apart a meeting, ask me to come. So my life is truly very, very simple. Simplify your life. You don't have to belong to everything. I think there are two main reasons why some people accept anxiety and pressure in different ways than others. Number one, my temperament, who I am. And you're born with that. It never changes, sweetheart. So you better love it. Love who you are, your temperament, and what you think about God, and what place you have put him in your life. Two things. I am different. Bill says that he is not like me. I can turn around on a dime. If something doesn't work, I can do the other in 2 minutes. Bill has to sit down with pencil and paper and take a lot of time. He is much different than I, but he's much more stable than I am. There are many times I have made appointments, and some of you that are in here I have seen in my office, which is in my house, and I have forgotten I've had an appointment. I go to the back door, open the door in my pajamas. Oh, am I supposed to see you today? I make everyone feel so comfortable because they think, boy, if she can do it, I sure can. So everyone is different. Every temperament is different, and that means that I accept falling off of the escalator much different than Bill does. I accept doing different things. I come from a very poor family. I went to school very poor, very hungry, very dirty. I could not read. That was my childhood in Detroit. My father was in prison for years. I didn't come from out of a hat box. I had some wretched things happen in my life. Wretched. Have you? Sure. I think as Christians we are to be transparent as you were. Thank you, dear Father. I thank God for you, of what you were up here. We are to be transparent about our life because it gives you courage. If someone comes to my office and says, I'm lost, I am done for, I'm at the bottom of the ladder, I'm from the wrong side of the tracks, I can say, I'm your neighbor. What can I do to help you? Don't you have something that you could share with somebody else if you weren't ashamed of it? Shame, that's what Jesus put on the cross. We shouldn't even have to walk around with that. My relationship with God has a lot to do, though, with how I will react to stress. I think this is a triangle, of course. I do a lot of triangles. And we will pretend that this, see the little wavy line, is water, all right? And what if the triangle came up past this water? This is what you would see of a person. All you know of Jeanette Stone is this little tip of what you see above the sea. There has to be this wealth of foundation here. And that's the relationship with God. That's not what God doesn't care if you do anything. He cares about your relationship with him. Do you talk to him? Do you, every now and then, some of you that are, if you're around me a lot, you will hear me in the middle of a conversation say, thank you, dear Father, as I think of something. He is with you right now. You can't get away from him. It says that in Psalm 139. This is the depth. What you see of Pastor Mike, and I don't know if he's here, and Tim, who I had in Sunday school, by the way. If you want to know some stories, let me know. That's just a little bit of who he is. But a lot of people live this way. They show more than what they've got. And that's called shallow people. And you can tell by the little upraised voice, I get a little ticked. You want solid people. And it could be because God's purpose that you will never have this little point here where you're speaking or talking or writing the book. You just have this. But see, you're just going to be taking this to heaven. That's what you want. And you get that by talking to God. You get a relationship by speaking to him. And it doesn't have to be a formal prayer, where you set it all up. It can be if you want to. But I just talk to him. But as you know, I'm a little disorganized. I don't like complication. I don't like a lot of details at all. So I'm just going to talk. He and I have a good time just talking through the day. That's my prayer with him. What if you were married to someone and you didn't talk to them unless you set a certain time every day? At 4 o'clock, we will talk to each other. And you don't talk any other time. And a lot of people live their Christian life that way, and they never have this depth. People who live this way are shallow, and you can pick them up right away. You want to live this way, correct? Another way that we really, I think, can handle the pressure that we're going to have in life, and Bill and I have had lots of pressure. And as you have too, is having a real time of thinking through things. What do I want? What is important to me? What's my priority? It was talked a little bit here about what the priority is. Mark and Jane did such a good job of showing what was better for the other was the better good, is what they were saying, I believe. So if your priority should also look like a triangle, and what's at the top of the triangle, let me just put this down, should be only one thing, and you can go toward it, and you learn, and you get encouraged by going toward it, and that's your relationship with God. What's on the next level, you can have more on it. I've got 2 things on it. So because I have 2 things on that level, I have decided that they can affect each other. My ministry and my family. Now, primarily my family is Bill Stone. I am not sitting down right now with Bill Stone. Why? Because I am here. You are my ministry. I have intellectually made that choice. So when my ministry affects my family, I feel okay about that. Now, if I were to get a call right now and Bill had a heart attack, I would say goodbye in the middle of everything. And I would feel okay about that because I've made that choice. They affect each other. The farther down the line, the more can be on that line. But knowing they all affect each other. If something way down here, I like to read. I like to read mystery novels. That's the last thing I read at night. You would think I'd read the Bible last thing at night, didn't you? I like mystery novels. So what if, though, I'm just about ready to finish a mystery novel, so I couldn't come here? I would call Sam and say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. I'm on the last chapter. I just have to finish it. And so if something down below affects what's on top, your life feels unstable. Things are not right, and you know things are not right. You feel it. And that's why maybe you come to a counselor, or you speak to your pastor, or whomever, because you've let something that really is not that important to you affect something that is more important to you. So you have to really, and I think we're going to pass out things tonight. I think we are, about priorities. There are certain rules I have about them. Whatever we put on the number one thing in our pyramid has to remain constant. Once I change that number one thing, that's the most important thing in my life, and the most important thing in my life is being Christ-like, is my relationship with him. I'll tell you, honey, he is crazy about me. He loves me, and I feel it. Wow, thank you, dear Father. Do you know what a gift that is? That's the number one thing of my life. So that has to affect everything else I do. But if I were to change that, if the number one thing in my life has been Jeanette, and that was at one time, and I had to change it, I had a hard time because Jesus wouldn't go anywhere else but number one. He floated off in the distance there. He always wants to be number one in your life. And he affects everything else. He affects my relationship with my husband, with my children. He affects my ministry. I have 1,000 pithy sayings, of course, being as old as I am. One of them contradicts kind of what you said, care enough to do a bad job, when you had it, I think, something about something you wanted to do better. I can't remember how you phrased it. To care enough. See, the things after being like Christ is more important than anything else. Giving the talk isn't that important. Writing the book isn't that important. Being the pastor isn't that, compared to being like Christ. I'm not saying that there's no importance, but do you understand that? You can live it with an ease if you can be like Christ. And the pressure then, see, that goes away is just amazing. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. All the peace, all the calmness, all the sense of not worrying, all of the sense of being on task, being where you are exactly where you should be right at this moment. How do I know that? Because you're here. I am right here, right now, and so I know I should be here right now. I am God's problem. You are God's problem. You are not your problem. God's your problem. You need to relate to him. You need to talk to him. Bring him into your heart. Love him. Have you ever been in love? Any of you ever been in love? I mean, you just could not wait, right? I mean, wasn't it wonderful to be just in love? That's what you want that's the feeling you want to have with God. How do you get that feeling? You ask for it. You cannot do it yourself. You have to ask for everything you need. And some of us, of course, want to be so independent, we want to do it ourselves. If I read enough books, if I read the Bible enough, if I pray enough, if I go to church enough, yada, yada, yada. God is the one that puts himself in your heart. But also a good lesson to learn if you're pressured and anxious over your children, that you want them to come to Christ, you want them to grow. That's nothing you can do about that other than to be the example that he wants you to be. God puts his spirit in someone's heart. The Holy Spirit comes into their heart. We don't have that authority. We don't have that power. Wow. Okay, dear Father, Chris Stone's your problem, not mine. But I'm going to keep praying that the Holy Spirit will come into his heart. Many things we take as our problem, and they are God's problem. Amen? The fact that we somehow want to be enough of a Christian to get in heaven, but not enough to be weird. And Jesus said, I'm calling out a peculiar people. I'm calling out a weird people. I cannot tell you how often I've heard, even in school, when I was going to elementary school, of course you would say that, Jeanette. Of course. Because you're a little different. Be a little different. Life is exciting. I have a great life. I love my life. I like my age, by the way. I'm closer to heaven than probably you are. Ha 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 ha. Him, not a ministry. See, you could sit in the middle of a desert and do nothing but love him and feel that in love. Now, you know a little bit of what it feels like because you've been in love, but it's even more than that. But that's just a hint of what it's like to feel that way. Just smile when you think about them. Have you ever had a girl or a boyfriend that when you think about them, you just can't help but smile? Ah, wow. That's what you want with God. God, that's what I want with you. Whatever we put on top has to affect everything on the bottom. And, oh, I only have one more minute. I'm going to make Sam anxious. The lower on the pyramid, the more things can be on there. Lots of little stuff you can have. I love to knit. I make dishcloths. If you want a dishcloth, let me know. I do a lot of different things that are very interesting to me. The higher we place anything, the less that can be on that line, though. There are times in my life when truly my pyramid looks just like I only have this much. Because maybe the ministry has taken too much or the family's taken too much. And so I haven't had time for this. And that's okay. But never not have time for this. And how do you get that? How did I say you get that? You talk to God. More than anything to me, for me, that was the highlight of how I got to him. I could not read when I went to school, but I found an old Bible when I accepted Christ. I used to get Jesus and Santa Claus mixed up. Yeah, and so I laid there for a long time. I've always been a thinker, and so I thought and thought and thought, and Jesus was real, and all of him was real. And how far have I gotten in my Christian walk? Jesus is real, and all of him is real. Wow, my life is fantastic. I picked up an old King James book and began to read from the beginning to the end. I had to skip over most of the words because I couldn't read. Do you know God smiled all the way through that? I can just imagine what he thought. He went, look at Jeanette. Wow, she wants me so much that even though she can't even read, she opened up the first book, the first page, and read through the whole thing. That's what I want for you. If you don't have that hunger for him, where you're hungry for him, ask for it. He'll give you anything you want. He will, I promise you. And if you've asked and asked and asked and you haven't gotten it yet, come and see me. I love you all.